how I would fix Dragon Ball Super. Before we begin, I want to make one thing clear. This is not a complete rewrite of Dragon Ball Super, line by line. It's more of an outline of the main story beats that I would change. For the most part, I actually like Dragon Ball Super's story. The goal of this video is to approach Dragon Ball Super as if I were Toriyama's manga or anime editor. My job isn't to replace his ideas or tell a completely different story. My goal is to strengthen the story while preserving everything that already works. More importantly, I want every change to fit naturally within the established lore of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. I don't want my changes to contradict anything that came before Super. If possible, I want them to reinforce the original series rather than overwrite it. So think of this less as a rewrite and more as an editorial pass. I'm trying to make Dragon Ball Super fit more naturally into the larger Dragon Ball story while changing as little as possible. Battle of Gods. Let's start with the Battle of Gods arc. Honestly, I wouldn't change much about it. The biggest change I would make is that, after fighting Goku, Beerus tells Goku and Vegeta that he will return in 10 years. If, by that time, they cannot unlock the full potential of the Super Saiyan God and prove that Earth deserves to exist, he will destroy the planet. Beerus has watched everything that has happened on Earth through Whis. From the Saiyan invasion to Frieza, Cell, Majin Buu, and everything in between, Earth has repeatedly become the center of events that threaten the balance of the universe. As the god of destruction, Beerus concludes that Earth may one day become a danger to the universe itself. Rather than destroying it immediately, he decides to give Goku and Vegeta 10 years to prove him wrong. This creates a long-term goal for the entire series. Beerus isn't around to solve everyone's problems anymore. Instead, his eventual return becomes the looming threat hanging over Dragon Ball Super. After making that decision, Beerus goes back to sleep for at least 10 years, leaving Whis behind to continue training Goku and Vegeta. During the battle, Beerus also introduces Goku to the larger universe. He tells him about the other universes, the gods of destruction, and eventually the existence of the Super Dragon Balls. However, I would make one important change regarding the gods of destruction. Instead of them being well-known figures, I would make them almost mythical. They sleep for centuries, perhaps even millennia, and only awaken briefly to perform their duty before disappearing again. Most civilizations never see a god of destruction during their entire existence. Even the Supreme Kais don't fully understand them. They are more like forces of nature than public figures. Beerus and Whis would not change as characters. They would still be goofy, funny, and charming exactly as Toriyama wrote them. The only thing I'm changing is Beerus's role in the story. His personality stays exactly the same. I would also expand the lore surrounding the Super Saiyan God. The ancient Saiyans would have legends about Yamoshi, the Super Saiyan God. Most Saiyans dismiss those stories as myths, but a small religious group worshipped Yamoshi as a divine protector of the Saiyan race. Vegeta would know those stories because he grew up hearing them, but he never believed they were real. That keeps his character consistent while making the Super Saiyan God mythology feel older and more important. Resurrection F. The next arc is Resurrection F. Again, I would keep most of it the same, but with one major difference. Frieza wins. He defeats Goku and Vegeta and destroys the Earth. However, Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Piccolo, and Majin Buu all survive. Before attacking Earth, Frieza also destroys New Namek, making it impossible to use the Namekian Dragon Balls to restore the planet. Now the heroes have no easy solution. I would also change how Frieza became so powerful. Instead of training for only a few months, Frieza discovers a hyperbolic time chamber-like realm somewhere in the universe and spends at least 20 years training non-stop before returning. That way, his new power feels earned. Goku and Vegeta spent decades training under masters like King Kai and Whis. Frieza should have to make a similar commitment if he's going to reach their level. I would also slightly change Frieza's knowledge of Beerus. Frieza doesn't personally know Beerus, nor has he ever met him. Instead, throughout centuries of conquering planets, Frieza repeatedly heard ancient civilizations pray for the god of destruction to save them. Others cursed Frieza in Beerus's name, hoping divine judgment would one day fall upon him. So Frieza knows Beerus the same way he knew about the Super Saiyan before Namek, as an ancient legend that many civilizations believed in, but that he never personally took seriously. Universe 6. Tournament. Universe 6. Tournament. While the surviving heroes continue training on Beerus's planet, Champa arrives looking for Beerus. Since Beerus is asleep, Whis speaks with him instead. Champa reveals the existence of the Super Dragon Balls because he wants to challenge Beerus for them. Seeing an opportunity, Whis proposes a tournament between Universe 6 and Universe 7 to test his students. Now the tournament has genuine stakes. It's no longer just a competition. It's the heroes' only opportunity to restore Earth. At the same time, Goku and Vegeta know Beerus will eventually return, so every victory also brings them one step closer to preparing for his judgment. Other than that, I would leave this arc almost exactly the same. Goku Black. I honestly wouldn't change much. Dragon Ball has never had perfect time travel, and I don't think that's something worth fixing. The only meaningful change is that future Trunks stays in the present timeline after the arc ends. Tournament of Power. Because Trunks remains in the present, Goku, Bulma, or someone else suggests using the Super Dragon Balls to restore future Trunks' timeline after the Tournament of Power. Of course, they still restore all of the erased universes. Restoring Trunks' future simply becomes another meaningful use of the Super Dragon Balls. Divine Lore. I would also slightly change the relationship between the Supreme Kais and the Gods of Destruction. I wouldn't make them completely unrelated anymore. Instead, their connection would become symbolic rather than literal. Creation and destruction are two halves of the same cosmic balance. Without creation, destruction has no purpose. Without destruction, creation eventually becomes stagnant. That is why they are connected. However, I would completely remove the idea that if a Supreme Kai dies, the God of Destruction automatically dies as well. They remain separate beings who simply represent opposite forces that keep the universe in balance. Finally, I would completely remove the idea that Universe 7 only has around 20-something planets with intelligent life. Dragon Ball has always felt like a massive galaxy full of civilizations, empires, and unexplored worlds. I think it should stay that way. The Super Saiyan God, a divine figure for the Saiyan race, similar to Guru, is for Namek. I would establish that there are 3 types of divine figures in the Dragon Ball universe. The first are guardian deities, like Kami, Dende, and Guru. Their responsibility is to watch over and protect a specific world or civilization. The second are the regional gods, like King Kai and the Supreme Kai. These gods oversee a specific part of the universe. King Kai governs the North Galaxy, while the Supreme Kai watches over the entire universe. Finally, there are the conceptual gods. These gods don't rule over a place or a civilization. Instead, they embody and govern a universal concept. Beerus is one of these conceptual gods. He is the god of destruction. His authority doesn't come from ruling a kingdom or a planet. It comes from the fact that destruction itself is his divine responsibility throughout Universe 7. I would also establish that Yamoshi eventually ascended into this same class of god. Unlike Beerus, Yamoshi represents courage. To me, that perfectly fits his original story. Yamoshi wasn't remembered because he was the strongest Saiyan. He was remembered because he stood against evil even when he knew he couldn't win. His courage is what made him worthy of becoming a god. This also changes how I look at the Super Saiyan God transformation. Instead of treating it as just another transformation, I would establish that it is only the first step toward true godhood. Godhood is not a transformation. It's a state of being. That is also Goku's journey throughout Dragon Ball Super. He isn't just trying to become stronger. Why I like these changes. The reason I like all of these changes is because, in my opinion, they don't diminish anything that came before them. They don't rewrite Dragon Ball Super. They simply strengthen ideas that were already there. They preserve Dragon Ball Z's continuity while making Dragon Ball Super feel like a more natural continuation. Another reason I like these changes is because they put the Super Dragon Balls front and center. Instead of only appearing in 1 or 2 arcs, they become one of the main goals driving the story. They're used to restore Earth after Frieza destroys it. Later, they're used to restore future Trunks' timeline. Their introduction suddenly feels much more important because they're constantly relevant. I also think these changes restore the mystery surrounding the divine hierarchy. When Beerus and Whis first appeared, they felt ancient, intimidating, and almost incomprehensible. As Super continued, they gradually became supporting characters who were always around eating, joking, and solving problems. I don't want to change their personalities. I want to change how often they're present. Beerus should feel like a force of nature, someone whose very return changes the course of the story. Finally, I think these changes restore something Dragon Ball Super often lacked: real stakes. If the Dragon Balls can't solve a problem, Beerus usually can. By removing him from the story for most of the series, the heroes are forced to solve their own problems. Their victories matter more. Their defeats matter more. The Super Dragon Balls become essential, and the gods of destruction remain mysterious from beginning to end. So that's how I would fix Dragon Ball Super. I'm not trying to tell a different story. I'm trying to tell the same story in a way that feels more connected to Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z while preserving Toriyama's ideas as much as possible. Let me know what you think in the comments. What would you change? And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more Dragon Ball content.